Hi, welcome to this tutorial about Adobe Photoshop. This tutorial is for absolute beginners, so if you've never used Photoshop before, then this is a great place to start. In this video we're going to be looking at how to open the program, how to find your way around, and learning a bit about the interface. In subsequent videos I'll show you how to work with some basic tools and techniques in the program so you can just get started and you can look back through them to refresh your knowledge on the techniques as you go. So one of the first things I'm going to let you know is that different versions of Photoshop will appear slightly differently. I'm working on a Mac at the moment, you might be working on a Windows PC, so that'll change the look of things slightly. I think I've got an older version of Photoshop running at the moment. You might probably have a later version on your machine. So the first thing I'm going to do is hop over to Photoshop, and I've got the program open. So once you've opened the program, you can do this if you're on a Mac by going to the dock, or if you're on a PC by going to the Start menu and using the search function to search for Photoshop. Open the program up and you'll be presented with some sort of splash screen or welcome screen. Now it will look different depending upon which version you've got. So the two main things that you need to look for are these buttons over here, the Create and Open buttons. So those are the only two important things you need to find. If you've got a pre-existing Photoshop file, you could of course use the Open File button there. If you want to create a new one, which we're going to do today, we'll click on Create New. There are multiple ways to do most techniques in Photoshop, so as well as clicking Create New here, I could also go up to the File menu and choose New, or I could use the keyboard shortcut Command or Control N. All three of those methods will get the same result. This new dialog window will pop up. So what we're going to be doing here is making a new document. And for the purposes of this, it doesn't really matter what size. This is just a test to learn about the interface. So I'm going to make a web document. You see we've got some styles of documents, so these are looking at the different outputs that you might be using, so photographs, print, illustrations, web, mobile. I predominantly stick to either web for digital stuff and print for things that I know that I'm going to be printing out. Under web you've got some common sizes here, and you'll notice that it's preset our unit of measurement over here, 2 pixels. You can click on the View All Presets button and you can see there's a lot more sizes available for you. I'm just going to choose on Web Large, and I'm going to turn artboards off for now, leave it at 72 ppi, and you can see the colour mode is RGB, which stands for red, green, blue. So you can adjust any of these if you like, but for now we're just going to work with that. Click on Create. And once you get to this stage, the interface will look reasonably similar. You might have something different on the right hand side of your screen. So that's the first thing we're going to talk about is Workspaces, how to make your screen look more like mine. Up the top here there's a little button, and we can see that we have got different workspaces. So if I click on Essentials, it'll change and we'll just have a basic set of panels here on the right showing up. So because I usually work in a workspace that I've made for myself, but I know that you'll have the Essentials one available, so if we all click into that one, it'll all look the same. Okay, so looking at different parts of the interface now. This big white part in the middle, this is your page, so this is set up to the size that you've just told it in the new dialog window box. Up here we have the file name, and we can see this is currently called Untitled 1, and it is an unsaved file. It tells us the zoom, so how zoomed in or zoomed out we are, and it tells us what colour mode we're in. So this is a red, green, blue RGB file, and it's 8-bit. On the left here we have the tools. Your tools may look different. I prefer to pop them out a little bit, so there's a little double arrow up here and you can pop them out into 2 columns. This is how Photoshop used to be many years ago, and it's what I'm used to and familiar with. I like it because the colour swatches down here are much larger and just easier to grab. So right across the top you'll have the File menu, File, Edit, Image, Layer, things like that. And you'll often hear me say go to the File menu or go select something, filter something, and it will mean go to the filter and then go down to, choose an option from down there. Underneath that we have, pardon me, we have the Contextual Menu, also known as the Options menu. And this will change depending upon what tool you've got, what item you've got selected on your page, and what panel you're currently working in. Over here on the right, as I say, these are panels. They used to be called palettes, so some tutorials will still refer to them as that. And in between there will be these little buttons. Now the buttons will open further panels, so you can have panels small, or you can make them bigger, or you can rip them off and undock them, you can move them back and redock them. You can see I've got these two docked together now. So you can double click on a panel and it will make it smaller, clicking on the name. So there's lots of different ways of reorganising your workspace so that you've got just the things that you need up and ready to work with. The one panel that I always have available is this one here, the Layers panel. You can see when we get a new file, I haven't made any artwork yet, it gives us one layer already. It's a special type of layer, it's a locked layer, they call it background, it's flooded with white and the visibility is on so that we can see it. So we're currently seeing white here. I'll go over the Layers panel and how to adjust the settings here in a future video. The other thing I want to bring your attention to is in the Tools panel. There are loads of different tools and most of them can alter your artwork in some way. If you hover over them you'll get these little tooltips, so they're available for you in there, and you can see that they've got the keyboard shortcut, so if you want to use the keyboard to start working with Photoshop faster and more efficiently, I suggest you learn your favourite ones, your favourite tools. For instance, B is brush, and this one up here is very important. This is the move tool. V is move. I recommend that you treat the move tool as your default tool. So once you use anything else here, always go back to the move tool, V. So that's simply pressing V on your keyboard or coming and clicking it over here. The reason why I recommend you use the move tool as a default tool and always come back to it after doing any other action is because you can move stuff with it, but you can't really destroy anything with it. A lot of the other tools can make quite destructive changes to your artwork, and you can get quite lost. So it's a really good habit to get into using the move tool there. I'm going to show you quickly how to save this file, and then we'll finish up the video. So to save your file, it's currently unsaved, you can choose File, and you've got two options here. You've got Save or Save As. Save is greyed out because we haven't saved this file before. Save As is used when you want to save the file for the first time, or you can also use it to save the file with a new file name and thus create a new file. So we'll use Save As. And I'm just going to pop this in a folder that I've made, and you can give your file a name. I do recommend getting in the habit of using just lowercase letters. Don't start your file name with a numeral, and if you need to use any punctuation you can use hyphens or underscores, but don't use anything like slashes or full stops or colons or anything like that, because they simply won't work. Down here we've got the file format options. It will default to a Photoshop file, but if you click on it you can see that Photoshop can actually save your file to a variety of different formats. The Photoshop document, in most cases, is going to be the one that you want to save your working file in. If you are working on a stupendously large file, then the large document format will allow you to keep working on bigger files without crashing Photoshop. We're going to keep with Photoshop, and I'm going to tick on Embed Color Profile. So this is just going to embed the sRGB color profile into that file, which is helpful if you want to send it to a printer in the future or to another service provider. Click on Save, and you may or may not get a pop-up window asking you to, especially if it's your first time saving, it might ask you, do you want to save on the cloud or on your computer? If you're working on your own machine, then and you don't have access to the cloud, I'd recommend saving to a computer and just tick Always for that option. You may also get a dialog box that pops up and asks if you'd like to maximize compatibility on your file, and again just tick on Yes and go from there. Okay, that's all for now. See you in the next one.